Hey, what's up YouTube? This is the Mermail Master coming at you from the Team Time Riders YouTube channel with a deck profile of a deck, probably one of the very first decks that I ever decided to build. Now, I'm not talking about very first competitive deck, very first deck I sent to locals. This is one of the first decks that I built, period. The reason that I built this deck was because I actually ended up pulling a lot of the cards for it in Starstrike Blast. Surprise, surprise, that deck is Watts. Now, Watts have always been something that's kind of fascinated me. They were one of the decks that really, highlighted stun aspects, especially in a format where most of the decks were running like Plant Synchro. I, of course, didn't know this at the time, having opened the set just to, as my first purchase, really, of a booster box back to me getting into the game, had a little bit of disposable income to spend. But, now that you can see sort of where this deck is going, I decided to see what would happen if I took a 2017 take on, sort of the Watt deck. And this is what I came up with. Feel free to give me comments and suggestions about the deck. And, yeah, without further ado, let me get into the deck profile, and I'll explain pretty much everything that I'm running. So, to start out, no Thunder type deck would be complete without the copies of 3 Thunder Seahorse. I misplaced my secret somewhere, and I'm still trying to find them, but for now, we're chilling with these supers. Thunder Seahorse is a fantastic card because you can discard it from your hand to your graveyard like a hand trap, and you can search any 2 Thunder type monsters with 1600 attack or less with the same name from your deck to your hand, but the caveat is that you can't special summon during the turn that you use this. So it actually does pair a little bit well with Pot of Duality, and then if you wanted Card D. Extra added benefit is that it's kind of like Thunder Dragon, where if you discard one of these cards, you can search 2 more of the exact same Thunder Seahorse. So if you want to be able to have a long-term setup play, search the 2 Thunder Seahorses, and then you can discard them on subsequent turns to be able to dig even further into your deck. So this is a great searchers of the deck that you can use. The next card we have, of course, are 3 copies of Watt Dragonfly. Watt Dragonfly, whenever it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon a Watt monster from your deck. Really, really fantastic card. You set this, usually your opponent will attack into it. And then the best thing about this is that if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, it doesn't even need to be sent to the graveyard. All it has to happen is this card gets to be destroyed, and you can special summon a Watt monster from your deck. So pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Then the next card we have is 3 copies of Watt Cobra. Watt Cobra is your main searcher. Usually you want to either fetch, if you're not fetching 2 of the Thunder Seahorse with Thunder Seahorse, you're going to definitely want to fetch Watt Cobra. Whenever Watt Cobra summons to the field, he can attack directly to your opponent. So, if your opponent's got like some massive beat stick that you can't get over, Watt Cobra will be able to attack directly. And when he attacks directly, you can search any Watt monster, even himself, from your deck to your hand. So, attack directly, maintain advantage, and use your spell and traps to your benefit. And then the next Watt monster is 3 copies of Watt Hopper. That's right, this is the Hopper Lock. Hopper Lock is my favorite way to run Watts. I pulled all 3 of these Hoppers in my very first booster box of Starstrike Blast, and I have no intention of getting rid of them anytime soon. These Hoppers were some of the very first cards that actually not only, basically the way that the Hopper Lock works is that Hopper redirects any attack or card effect to himself. And he doesn't allow the targeting of any other Watt monsters. So if you have 2 Watt monsters on the field, or Watt Hoppers on the field, your opponent cannot attack, nor can they target you with any card effects, any of your Watt monsters, because it sort of creates an infinite loop. And this was actually one of the very first sort of cards to set up like that kind of non-targeting lock. So in a sense, I guess we could say that it was ahead of its time. Very, very good strategy, and I will go over a ton of ways to be able to dig this out of the deck. The last 2 monsters, of course, that we're running are 2 copies of Watt Pheasant. This is 2017, and XYZs are still the name of the game. You attack with this card, banish your opponent's monster until the end phase. Added benefit for XYZ monsters, they lose all of their materials. With the increased presence of offensive rank 4s and not a lot of defensive rank 4s, you're going to find very little opposition when you're attacking in with Wat Pheasant. You know, of course, he can also attack directly as well, so banishing your opponent's monsters is another really, really great play. So that's it for the Wat monsters. I believe it's like 15 or something like that. A very, very small and low number of Wat monsters. But that's to take place for the spells and traps. Since, of course, we're running Wat Seahorse, and this is more a Thunder-based deck, we've got the 3 dualities in here to really increase the consistency of the deck. Like this, you know, if you're going to not be special summoning, you might as well get, you know, as many effects of non-special summoning monsters in as possible. So duality just digs you further and further. A lot of digging out. Next is an interesting thing we have here is 2 copies of Moon Mirror Shield. Now, a lot of your Wats are very, very low attack. But if your opponent's got like some kind of monster, some kind of card that directly limits your ability or hinders it to play the game, you know, you're going to want to get that stuff off the field no matter what. Willing to, like, you know, sacrifice a direct attack. You can attack directly, you don't necessarily have to. And, you know, having Moon Mirror Shield to do that, okay, sure, you're not going to get searches off of Cobra or banishes off of Pheasant, primarily because those monsters require you to attack directly. But this still gives you the ability to beat over, you know, even with your low attack, to beat over something that you normally wouldn't be able to overcome. Next, as if this is way back in 2012, we got 2 copies of Forbidden Lance. Wonderful, wonderful card. Basically, you use this card to protect either one or both of your hoppers from being destroyed by your opponent. The worst possible thing that can happen to your hopper lock is blanket destruction, such as Raigeki, Dark Hole, or you know, anything of that nature that doesn't have to target to destroy. So basically, having Forbidden Lance protects at least one of your cards from getting that destruction. And you know, if you can protect your hopper for long enough, it can at the very least redirect an attack, or at the very most stay around to the field next turn, where you can reset up with hopper once again. Next is 2 copies of Photon Lead. Now, you guys probably haven't seen this card in a while. This is a straight -1 technically, but it's really, really great as a quick play card. Be able to activate this and immediately special summon, you know, one of your Wat hoppers from your hand, or like a Wat monster from your hand to the field. Very, very fantastic card. Because the amount of advantage that you're going to be able to grind for off of the hopper lock, usually a lot of the times, negates the -2 that you sort of have at the hands of Photon Lead, because you're basically setting up for your future plays and ensuring that, you know, you're going to have that hopper lock set up as soon as possible so you can start swinging into your opponent for damage. Next is 2 copies of Messenger of Peace. Now, Messenger of Peace, of course, is self-explanatory, since there's not a single monster besides a Seahorse in the deck that has more than 1,000 attack. So, you know, preventing your opponent from attacking and, you know, forcing them to possibly waste a MST or Twin Twister, removing this from the field, as opposed to removing any one of the many dangerous trap cards you run, is very, very good, acting as both a deterrent as well as other things. And not to mention, the 100 life point damage that you take each turn also allows you to turn this card off if necessary. So you can easily send this to the graveyard if you want to make any kind of like larger play. So yeah, that's 2 Messenger of Peace. And then for the final spells, 1 copy of Necro Valley. Yeah, I mean, Necro Valley is Necro Valley. With the recent errata, it actually protects against monster effects in the graveyard as well. So Necro Valley got a huge, huge boost very recently from Konami. So very excited to see what the new Necro Valley is going to hold. But this is just like, you know, your deck relies nothing on graveyard effects. So, you know, being able to shut down your opponent's graveyard effects at very little disadvantage to yourself is always a play that you're going to want to make. And then the final spell card we have is 1 for 1. Get that hoppers out and, you know, just go ham. So that's it for the spell cards in the deck, a good number of those. as well. And then finally, moving on to the biggest part of the deck, which is, of course, our trap cards. Starting off the trap lineup is triple lose one turn. Now, a lot of people have forgotten about this card due to the overabundance of metal foes, which are unaffected by it due to being normal monsters. However, lose one turn has the ability to negate the effects, and it can't be on the field while there's special summon monsters. However, a lot of your, the only monster that you special summon out, the Watt Hopper and stuff like that, is continuous effects, so it doesn't really get affected by lose one turn. If you can set up a lose one turn and some other spell and trap support to just lock your opponent out turn one, against most decks that are not metal foes, and even against some of the metal foes fusion cards as well, like specifically Alcahest and stuff, this card is extremely, extremely potent and should not be underestimated by anyone. So you want to see lose one turn as much as possible, so that's why it's here at 3. 2 Rivalry Warlords, pretty much the same thing. All your monsters are light thunder types, so they're unaffected by this at all, and this will shut down a lot of what your opponent is doing. Multiple archetype, multiple type decks are very, very tough to get around Rivalry. Then we have 2 copies here of Dimension Wall. This is just something I'm kind of testing out as sort of a more fun strategy, but it's literally Magical Cylinder, except it does not target and inflicts the damage right back to your opponent. So it can demolish sort of a direct attack, and with the recent swath of non-targeting stuff, being able to take your opponent's damage and inflict it right back to them can sometimes be a lot more able to be done than most people realize. Next, we have 2 Mask of Restrict. Prevent kaijus from being summoned, prevent other plays from being made. A lot of people will try to tribute for a kaiju so they can pop your remaining Watt monster. Prevent that from happening. Get your Mask of Restrict up early. You'd be surprised how beneficial this is. If you're going up against Monarchs, it's the same thing. Main deck Mask of Restrict, I think, is underrated, and with the Zodiacs recently coming out, this card is going to be more important now more than ever. Next is a little personal tech card that I just decided to throw in here, and you'll probably be like, no way. However, Radiant Mirror Force. Literally, it's worse Mirror Force. However, it was ultimate in first ed, and I was like, okay, let's see if there's a situation where I could actually resolve this effect. And to the credit of the deck, I actually did end up resolving this effect once, and it was really funny. But yeah, run Mirror Force or run Storming or run Quaking or something like that. Literally anything to prevent your opponent. Usually you run a Quaking Mirror Force in place of that, but the money was too good for Quaking Mirror Forces, so I sold mine. Sorry, not sorry. Then 1 copy of Floodgate Trap Hole and 1 copy of Bottomless Trap Hole. Pretty cut and dry. Prevent your opponent from doing things. Banish their shit. Yeah. And then the final cards of the deck are, of course, 1 copy of Solemn Warning and 1 copy of Solemn Strike. Negate effects and special summons, and negate normal summons and cards that would special summon monsters. 1,500 and 200. 2,000 is not a big cost to pay in this deck, specifically because you're going to be stopping your opponent from attacking. Both of these cards put extreme pressure on your opponent. Try to make them, make moves or prevent them and their monster effects from really, touching your Watt lock. So yeah, that is the deck. It's 41 cards. Very, very consistent and very, very strong as well. And also a little bit of a blast for the past. It's something that I've been enjoying to play for a good couple of weeks or so, and something that I really hope you guys can enjoy as well. So I really hope you like this 2017 take on the Watt deck, and if you did, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, looking forward to putting out more deck profiles soon. So this has been the Mermail Master with the Team Time Riders Yugi Tube channel, and I'm signing out. Catch you guys next time. Peace.